I yelled. That's it, I'm out of here. And Jenna, my wife, snapped back. Fine, and don't you dare show your face again. Most days I'd fling a "go to hell" over my shoulder as I stormed off, but this time, I reached for something smoother, a touch more refined for my exit line. We've been trading these kinds of sharp jabs for 14 years of marriage, but now, I'm not circling back after a few days like some beat-up old hound. Jen'll catch my drift this time. Over the past 6 months or so, she's turned into a full-on verbal bulldozer, smashing me with every word she slings. I couldn't make sense of it, her shots, and I'm being polite here, stung like hell, sharper than a bee sting on a sunburn. So I started dodging her, slipping out of sight to keep the tension from blowing sky-high like an overcooked pressure cooker. Each day, I'd hang back longer in the car, taking my sweet time, and sometimes I'd creep home only after Jenna and our 13-year-old daughter, Carrie, had polished off dinner. I had to look after myself, you know, there'd be leftovers now and then, but lately, it's like they evaporate before I even pull into the driveway. I'm Kurt Kaminsky, technically David Kurt Kaminsky, but my dad's a David too, so they pegged me as Kurt from the jump to avoid the name tangle. Nope, not a junior, Dad's David John Kaminsky, and why he didn't slap that tag on me, I'll never figure out. I'd answer to Junior or even DJ with a grin, kinda catchy, right? But nah, it's just Kurt, or sometimes Nat, and yep, I've got Polish blood running through me. Well, sorta. I'm an American through and through, just with Polish roots, and I've heard nearly every dumb joke about it, though folks keep dreaming up new ones yearly. In this town of 10 million, I'm the only Pole I know besides Dad, which makes me the bullseye for every wisecrack they toss. Truth be told, I'm half Polish. Mom's side mixes in German, French, Irish, and English, but with a last name like Kaminsky, everyone's convinced I'm straight out of Warsaw. Jenna, my soon-to-be ex-wife, isn't the person I thought I married. I only sniffed out that bombshell about 4 weeks ago. Like I said, I'd been keeping my distance cause of her tongue-lashing streak, and after a few lonely dinners, I rolled into Mia's diner one Monday night. I was parked in a booth, ready to order, when I caught 2 guys jawing in the next stall, heard Pole pop up and zeroed in quick. One says, "How long you been messing with the Polish man's wife?" And the other shoots back, "Since they said I do, hell, I even nailed her on their wedding day, and he's got no clue." The first voice was a mystery, but the second? That was George Carey, my best buddy. I froze solid, like a deer in headlights. They kept blabbing, but it was white noise till George dropped. "Yeah, we meet up maybe twice a month. Kurt's out in the lot, clueless as a sack of hammers." By some stroke of luck, the waitress hit my table right then, and I muttered, "Sorry, gotta bounce," before bolting out the door. I made sure they didn't clock me, my head spinning. Jenna, my wife, with George, my tightest pal? The same guy who stood by my side at the altar, and my go-to mechanic too. I'm not cutting him loose from that job yet, though he's not officially on my payroll. He's more like my one and only gearhead, the sole dude I trust to tweak and check every car I've got. Oh, by the way, I run a used car dealership. Yep, I'm that guy, a used car salesman, peddling rides for a living. I've eaten every jab and stereotype about it, but business is humming. Folks know they're getting solid wheels at honest prices from me. If anything breaks down, I jump on it fast, and George? He's a freaking magician with a socket wrench, always has been. I keep him swamped with gigs and paid fat for it. I even pitched bringing him on full-time. He just chuckled, saying he'd hate himself working for a Pole, played it off as a gag, but I caught the real sting behind it. Still, I hooked him up as an independent contractor, though he wasn't all that independent. I'm his whole paycheck, and that's gonna be his downfall. After I peeled out of the diner, I cruised the streets, wrestling with what I'd heard. Was it real, or just George blowing hot air? They could have hired a PI to shadow him, but if he was legit, their meetups were rare. Might be a cash bonfire for nothing. I decided to dig through Jenna's phone and emails once I got home. She was her usual self, cool with me for now. I needed hard facts before facing her, so when she conked out, I peeked at her emails, spotless, not a whiff of dirt. Her phone had a lock, but I cracked it fast, Carrie's birthday did the trick, and I was in. I found a couple sketchy texts, but nothing tied to George. His name in her contacts wasn't weird since he's my friend. Maybe he was just bullshitting, I thought, but Jenna's odd vibes lately screamed something's up. Maybe not George, maybe someone else. I hit the sack antsy, flipping like a fish till after 2:43 a.m., when sleep finally took me down. Next morning at the lot, George lobbed his usual Polish cracks. Normally, I'd let him roll off me like rain. But today, I blew a gasket. "George, what do you even know about Poland? Bet you couldn't find it on a map if your life was on the line." I snapped. "You rag on Poles being thick, but I'd bet they could spot the US, maybe even our state, faster than you could blink. Get to work." I growled. George stared, speechless, sensing I'd sniffed out something juicy. He's no scholar, that's for sure, street sharp, killer with engines, but books? Not his thing. That's why we gelled in high school. I'd tutor him, make sure he graduated with that cap and gown. Now I'm rethinking our whole bond. His craps got me questioning how I even picked Jenna. I stormed into my office, slammed the door, and sat there brooding, plotting how to nail down proof before I take 'em both on. I knew going toe-to-toe with them wouldn't cut it. They just shrugged me off like flies on a windshield, so I needed something concrete, rock-solid proof. I hit up a private eye in Santa Fe, spilling my guts about the whole mess, and he figured tailing Jenna and George would burn a hole in my wallet since their hookups, if they were real, were scattered like dandelions in the wind. He tossed out, "Stick a tracker on her phone, man. At least you'll know where it's at when you peek, or rig up some cameras at home, but cheap ones'll stick out like a sore thumb." He warned me even high-end gear, fancy and pricey, might tip her off if she's sharp, adding, "Me, I'd tag her phone and pray you catch 'em in the act." He pitched a slick tracking app, brushing off my offer to pay. "Nah, it's on the house. You can find all this online anyway." I pushed back. "You gave me gold here. Expect a check, and if you're ever near Silver City, swing by Kaminsky's lot." He chuckled. "Don't usually roam that far, but if I do, I'll hunt you down." And I could tell he wasn't just blowing smoke. I built my car gig on making folks feel like they matter, learn it quick that people eat up a little validation, and it's paid off big time. I went with the phone tracker, skipping the camera hassle and saving a few bucks while I was at it. That night, with the house dead quiet, I crept upstairs and slipped the app onto Jenna's phone, syncing it to mine so it'd hum along in the shadows. She'd never suspect a thing. For once, I crashed hard, sleeping like a log. Next day at the dealership, I kept one eye on the app. Jenna pulls part-time shifts at the university bookstore, 15 to 20 hours a week, calling it her fun cash for salon splurges. She swung by the grocery store, then landed back home. George? He was parked at his place most of the day, but when Jenna was around, he was out tinkering on cars, so I figured nothing spicy happened that shift. That evening, I tried playing nice with Jenna and Carrie, floating the idea of dinner out. Jenna perked up a tad, while our teenage girl grumbled like usual, but I nudged till she caved. Dinner rolled smooth enough. I dropped George's name casual-like, and Jenna squirmed, dodging the topic fast, which lit my suspicions up like a flare. I'm dead set on figuring out if George's big talk holds any weight. I've gotta crack this nut somehow. That night, I held off on snooping her phone, past peeks at her calls or texts turned up zilch. Either she's quick with the delete button, or there's nothing to find. Slipping into bed, I tossed out, "Hey, thanks for coming to dinner with us." And Jenna met my eyes, saying, "Thank you, Kurt. It caught me off guard, but it was nice." She hinted, "Might be your lucky night, it's been a minute." And yeah, we've been rocky lately, no secret there. After her usual bathroom wind down, she slid in close, and I wrestled with it. Did I even want this if she's been stepping out? I decided she'd have to make the move. I wasn't diving until I had proof. We ended up tangled up anyway, nothing wild, just the usual, and I'll spare the play-by-play, but I didn't hate it. All week, I tracked her phone's every twitch, nothing funky popped up, all routine. Saturday night, while she snoozed, I snatched her phone again, digging for texts or calls, still nothing, clean as a whistle. I was half convinced George was just puffing his chest, spinning yarns to look big. Wouldn't be the first time I'd caught him at it since we were kids. I tossed and turned, my brain buzzing, keeping sleep at bay till 2 a.m., when I gave up and shuffled downstairs. With a Jack and Coke in one hand and her phone in the other, I punched in Carrie's birthday to unlock it, staring at the home screen. Then it slammed me like a freight train. Carrie's birth date, that's the key. Jenna's pregnancy was a roller coaster. We nearly lost Carrie a few times. Some RH factor mismatch made her body fight the baby. She was glued to bed rest those last 3 weeks to pull it off, and sure enough, Carrie popped out 9 months after our wedding day. We were over the moon she was healthy, but man, she was a handful, crying nonstop, barely sleeping, fussy with feeding, wearing us thin. By Carrie's 2nd year, Jenna put her foot down, no more kids, and it bummed me out, 'cause that little terror had sapped a lot of our spark. I'd always bragged Carrie was a wedding night baby, born bang on 9 months later, conceived right then or on the honeymoon, classic stuff. Then it clicked, if George wasn't lying, Jenna might have been pregnant before we even cut the cake. She was on the pill. Nah, we didn't wait till the vows to get busy, it was a big part of us. Doc guessed wedding stress threw her hormones off, maybe tanked the pill that night, or that day, if George got there first. Now I had a plan. There's a coin flip chance I'm not Carrie's dad. You know how it goes, the early bird scores, but George might have been the worm who nabbed the prize. I ditched the couch, raided the bathroom for cotton swabs, and tiptoed to Carrie's room. She's been a solid sleeper since 4, after years of chaos. She was out cold, snoring away, mouth wide. I swiped a Q-tip inside her cheek, easy as pie, no twitch. I bagged it, did the same for myself, and stashed him. Even if Carrie's mine, it don't erase what Jenna might have done. Sunday rolled around, and I shoved those nagging doubts to the back burner. Chores were calling, and we all had our jobs to tackle. I dragged my feet, steering clear of Jenna and Carrie to keep my temper from flaring up, 'cause I was itching to nail down my hunch, though uncertainty gnawed at me all day. Jenna piped up. "Something eating you, Kurt?" And I scrambled for a smooth dodge. "Yeah, I'm plotting to snag a haul of cars at the next auction to juice up the lot. Cash might get tight till they move." She tossed back. "Just don't stretch us too thin." Always calling the business ours, even though it's my baby, I set it up separate to shield my own wallet, living in a churchy town where I didn't want work gambles bleeding into home life. I threw out. "I'm thinking of wiping out the credit cards, keeping just one alive to boost our score." A slick cover as she sniffed out my real game later. She shrugged. "Do whatever you figure's best." Not giving a damn, and bam, the light bulb hit. It's wild what your brain cooks up when you let it loose. This softened the blow if my gut was right. Monday morning, bright and early, I hauled the DNA samples to Western New Mexico University, chatting up a science department guy who pointed me to the big shot in charge. He jumped at the gig. I slid him some business cards and dangled a 10% discount for his crew working the tests, and he seemed stoked. "Been eyeing a new ride to ditch my Camry," he said. "Might drop by your lot. If nothing pops, I'll team up with you to hunt one down." I grinned. "Appreciate it, I'll keep it in mind." And as I peeled out of there, I felt a smile creep up, though worry tugged at the edges. Those results could torch my marriage. I'd fed Jenna that line about buying cars as a smokescreen for my jumbled head, but the idea took root, sprouting fast. Back at the dealership, I yanked Paul, my accountant, loan guy, and part-time sales ace, into my office, laying out the plan. "We're making this happen," I swore, then added, "One more thing, Paul. I want to wipe the house mortgage clean. Can we swing a lump sum deal?" He nodded. "Let me chew on the numbers. I'll hit you after lunch," and ducked out. I mulled over ringing my lawyer for a family law hookup, but then I pumped the brakes. Hold up, let's see the test first. I still didn't have a smoking gun on Jenna's cheating. Post-lunch, Paul swung back with a spreadsheet, and we hashed out the next steps for both schemes, the car haul and the mortgage payoff. The next couple days crawled by, every second dripping with nerves over the DNA results. Late Wednesday, the department head buzzed me, locking in the verdict and swinging by to talk cars. When he strolled in, I led him to my office. His face screamed the truth before he even opened his mouth. "The samples don't match," he said flat out, and I gave a slow nod, gut-punched even though I'd braced for it. He let me stew a sec, then handed over the envelope with the proof. When I looked up, my mask slipped. "So, that car you're after?" I nudged and he grinned. "Call it cheesy, but I'm turning 50, dreaming of a sports car, maybe a Mazda Miata." I didn't have one parked out front, but I vowed, "I'll scour tomorrow's auction for a clean one. Expect a call this afternoon with the scoop." As he split, I muttered to myself, "Told Anna I might cut out early, but I'm around if she needs me." Knowing full well she wouldn't, she's a one-woman show, rarely leaning on me for squat. Cruising the city streets, everything felt off-kilter, warped like a funhouse mirror. I dialed my lawyer. He was bummed about the news but pointed me to a family law pro he swore by, and after we hung up, I locked in an evening meet for the next day. Over a burger at some joint, I chewed on the past, 15 years down the drain? I couldn't even say I had a kid from this mess. Carrie's mine in my heart, sure, but blood says otherwise. What's my move now? Playing dumb wasn't an option. I'd suspected it before, but this sealed it, no backtracking. One thing I knew for damn sure, George was gonna pay, best pal or not, hell, with a friend, like him, who needs enemies? Jenna's got her reckoning coming too. I wondered if she even knew Carrie wasn't mine, but either way, she buried the truth, sneaking around with my best man on our wedding day, of all days. No question now, those diner words rang true. She was meeting him a couple times a month, at least. Fury started bubbling up, hot and thick, and before it swallowed me whole, I knew I needed space, away from everybody. I should have tipped Jenna off I wasn't coming home, but stepping foot in that house. Not a chance. I'd end up doing something stupid, maybe jail stupid. I punched her number. She picked up. "Hey, Kurt." And I said, "Hey, I'm crashing in Albuquerque tonight. Gotta gear up for the auction tomorrow at 8. Her voice went flat. "Oh, alright, safe trip then." And that was that. I don't usually haul myself to Albuquerque for auctions, so this detour stood out like a sore thumb. I couldn't help wondering if Jenna'd use my night away to pull something slick. She'd have to spin a yarn to my folks about Carrie, and that'd be a tough sell, but I'd keep tabs on her phone tracker all evening, peeking now and then to see if she strayed. I rolled into Albuquerque, dead set on scooping up at least 20 cars. Gotta snag that Mazda Miata too, lining up pickup and delivery to my lot once the gavel dropped. Problem was, who'd I trust to check him over? George sure as hell wasn't getting another dime from me after his current job's wrapped. When he heard I nabbed 24 rides, he'd probably see dollar signs and jack up his rates. But I wasn't playing that game. I'd hush it up till the last second, then tap a local auction guy to point me to a sharp, reliable mechanic to eyeball them before they shipped to our little speck of a town. Pulled into Albuquerque around 9 a.m., checked into a Best Western. Owning the dealership don't mean I'm splashing company cash on ritzy digs. Room was cozy, bed was solid, just right for a plain guy like me with no fancy wants. Soon as I stepped in, I flicked on Jenna's phone tracker, still at home, or at least her phone was. But sleep dodged me like a skittish deer that night. Couldn't shake the whirl of her moves and reasons. How'd she square cheating on our wedding day, then keep it rolling for God knows how long? I started picking our marriage apart. It was never a fairy tale, but I bought into us being a one and only deal. Now I see it was a bust from the jump. Those early post-wedding years? Rough waters. We hadn't banked on a kid so quick. The plan was to chill 3 or 4 years before popping out a family, dreaming of 3 little ones total. Carrie's crash landing threw that out the window, and finding out my best bud sparked it made all the grind feel like chasing smoke. 14 years, good chunks and all, drowned under this gut-punch truth. If Jenna hadn't tangled with George, maybe I'd have been the dad. Her pregnancy might have been smoother, and we wouldn't have wrestled with such a tough kid, souring her on more. George didn't just mess with my wife that wedding day, he torched my whole world, sneaking around with her twice a month since. probably snickering at me, the dumb pole, behind my back. He's got payback coming, I swore, sprawled out trying to cool off and drift away, but rage bubbled up again. I had to get a grip or kiss sleep goodbye. Flipped on the TV, landed on some brain-dead comedy. The laughs smoothed my edges, and by 11 o'clock, I was set to crash, eyeing a packed day ahead. Auction went like butter. I nabbed some killer cars at sweet prices, hobnobbed with Albuquerque dealers, but no Miatas showed. Asked around, 2 guys had one each, red and black. I haggled tentative deals, waiting on my client's color pick. They'd seal it once I coughed up my lot's details. Should have hit this scene more. Rubbing elbows with these gearheads lit a fire to grow my gig and yanked me out of my head for a bit. Later, meeting the lawyer, the vibe soured fast. Divorce could strip me of half my stuff, plus alimony and child support for a kid that ain't even mine. Right then, I ditched the divorce idea. Better plan, pay off the house mortgage, let her stay there with George's kid. My name's solo on the deed, so she can't sell. I'd cover taxes and bills, crash somewhere else, she'd be stuck, no chance to ditch and claim it. Business, though? It's a corporation, but my gut screamed I could still lose it without a shield. Talking to my business lawyer shot up my to-do list. Got home wiped out from the grind, mumbled to Jenna. I'm fried, gonna shower and crash. Staggering to the bedroom. Dinner? She called, and I waved it off. Nah, I ate late. Least she gave half a damn to ask. That shower? Pure heaven, like the muck was rinsing off, even with problems piling up, plotting fixes eased me. Hit the pillow, and sleep swallowed me fast. Last week was a beast, but with a scheme brewing, my mind finally chilled. Woke up buzzing, slipped out to the office before Jenna or Carrie stirred, dived into spreadsheets and cash reports, mapping my plays. Filled Paul in on the 23-car haul, told Anna to cut George off from new jobs, stressing. Keep it quiet. She squinted. You're the boss. And I shot back. Couldn't do it without you, Anna, you're gold. At 9 o'clock sharp, I rang my business lawyer for counsel, he warned. It's registered, but she could push a sale, claim half, maybe sell it first yourself. I snapped. No way, it's my blood and soul. He sighed. Think it over, I'll circle back by Friday. That hit like a sledge. I'd built this place like a kid of my own, not like Carrie, I thought, bitterness creeping in. Here's my reworked version of Part 5, straight from Kaminsky's gut. A regular American guy trying to hold it together. I've kept the story's soul intact, twisted the sentences around, swapped in new lingo, beefed it up with some extra grit, and kept it real and conversational, all in first person and smooth for an AI to read. The full rewritten Part 5 is below, ready for you to grab. Rage was clawing at me again, threatening to take over, but I'd been around the block long enough to shove it in a box. I zeroed in on my business instead, keeping my head in the game. First move, I rang up Doug to double-check George's big mouth. Hey Doug, it's Kaminsky. Got word on 2 Miatas you might like, red and black, you and if the price hits right? He shot back. Which one's your pick? I grinned. Let me roll them both out, then we'll hash out the cash. Worst case, I can flip it easy. He pressed. Red's loud but fades quick out here. Black's sharp but cooks in the sun. Gonna garage it. Yep, he said. Red it is then. When can we link up? Monday or Tuesday work? I asked, and he sealed it. Perfect, buzz me when you're here. After we hung, I dialed the dealer with the red Miata, working a trade. He'd been eyeing the BMW collecting dust on my lot for 3 months, figuring it'd move faster in a big city. Meanwhile, George strolled in, tinkering on a few cars still in his queue. His loose schedule as a freelancer used to fit me perfect, but now, with my blood simmering, I could barely stand the sight of him. Overheard some sales guys buzzing about the 23 cars dropping soon, and George piped up. Hey Kurt, when re these auction halls showing up? Gotta plan my fixes. I kept it cool. Auction house is shipping em, probably late next week or early after. Forcing a laugh as he walked off, the lying snake. That weekend I steered clear of Jenna, buried myself in mowing the lawn and running errands, not even bothering with her phone tracker anymore. all I felt was disgust, raising some other guy's kid like a sucker. Monday, I was back at it, set up the BMW from Miata swap and bolted to Albuquerque to lock it down. "We'll grab grub when you roll in," the dealer offered, so I told Anna I'd be MIA all day. "Hold it down, all right?" She nodded. "You got it, boss." Steady as ever, she's due for a bump in pay. The drive was chill, lunch was a blast, kicking off a solid vibe with the dealer. Cruising home in that red Miata, wind ripping through my hair, I soaked in the freedom. Decided right then to snag a black one too. Who needs more than 2 seats anyway? Pulled into the driveway, all revved up, and Jenna peeked out, yakking with Carrie. Both stepped out to gawk. "What's with this car, hon?" Jenna snipped. "We need a back seat for Carrie." I shrugged. "Just grabbed it for a client from Albuquerque. Thought you'd wanna spin it." She sneered. "No thanks, hon, small cars ain't my thing." Dripping with that high and mighty tone. "Carrie, come on," I called, waving her over, but she balked. "No way, Dad, I get enough crap for my last name, don't need to roll with a Polish car salesman." Her jab hit like a slap. Teenagers can be brutal, but where'd that venom come from? Shot a look at Jenna. She brushed it off like it was nothing, and now both my girls were dissing me hard. Sure, kids drift from their folks sometimes, but that cut deep, making me doubt everything I'd built this family on. "Taking it for another spin, back later," I barked, threw it in reverse, and peeled out, tires humming with my frustration till I rolled home around 9:30, showered quick and crashed into bed. Jenna barged in post-shower, flipping on the light, blinding me. I squinted, shutting my eyes tight. "You pouting 'cause we didn't jump for your little sports car?" she taunted. "Gonna skip family time? You're not just Polish, you're a damn kid." Her sudden sass threw me. Had to be George's stink rubbing off, turning her against my roots and seeping into Carrie too, even though she ain't mine by blood. I'd poured years into her, but facts are facts. "Seems like you and your girl don't need a pole cluttering up the place. Might as well bounce," I fired back, heat rising fast. She'd rude treating me like dirt. After that, the Kaminsky house turned icy, silence hanging heavy. Next day, Doug swung by to scope the Miata, loved it, and when we ran the numbers, he was stoked, snagging it $3,000 under Blue Book. As he signed off, he tossed out, "My best bud handles buying for the university. 16 cars every 2 years, not huge, but could you chat with him?" I jumped. "Always down for a deal, I'll make it worth his while. Jim'll hit you up by week's end," he said, and I grinned. "Thanks, that's how I grow this gig, treating folks right and cashing in on their word of mouth." So, Wednesday hits, and my lawyer buzzes me up, goes, "Hey, Kurt, I think I've got a fix for your mess. Can you pop by this afternoon to talk it over?" I'm like, damn straight, I'm ready to dive in. Things at home have been suffocating, man, pure misery. Later that day, I'm in his office, and he rolls out this plan. I'm nodding along, feeling good about it. It's gonna take 2 weeks to pull off, but if it lands, it'll be worth the grind. Over those next couple weeks, I'm slyly hauling my stuff, clothes, tools, random junk, out of the house and into an apartment down the road, piece by piece. Meanwhile, George is chomping at the bit for those 24 cars to show up so he can tinker with them, but I keep feeding him excuses to stall. Last weekend, with Jenna and Carrie out of the picture, I mowed the lawn, then ripped through my closet and drawers, clearing it all out. Jenna washes clothes midweek, so she didn't spot the ghost town in there. That takes me back to Monday night when I dropped the bomb. "Jenna, I'm done, I'm outta here." She snapped back with her typical venom, ripping into me for being Polish and slinging used cars. Usually, I'd bolt to a motel for a night or two, depending on how steamed I was. Tuesday morning, I'm up early, pulling into the lot and rounding up the team in the conference room, our standard weekly powwow, so nobody's sniffing around for drama. I kick things off. "Morning, everybody, you know those cars I scored a few weeks ago? They rolled in yesterday, all checked out and shiny, ready to move. George is off the hook, no more jobs for him here. If he whines, just tell him we're switching gears." I stop, brush a tear off my cheek, and push through. You guys are gold, family, really, so this ain't easy to say, I've sold the business. They're gawking at me, shell-shocked, but I jump in. Relax, nothing's shifting for you, except Anna's stepping up, taking some of my weight with a nice bump in pay. They cheer for her, she's busted her ass and they know it. Anna, hang back after, we need to talk. I say, then add. I'm not vanishing, folks, I'll stick around, advise a bit, maybe sell a car here and there, but I won't cramp your style. They're cool with me not bailing completely. Meeting's done, and there's George, hovering outside, griping. How come I didn't get an invite? I shoot back. It was for employees only, you don't cut it. He's floored, then clocks the cars and perks up. Sweet, I'll get cracking on 'em. I shut that down fast. Nope, they're good to go. He's stammering. But I always inspect the cars. I swallow the fire in my throat and say, George, I sold the joint. The new boss wants a different playbook. I keep it tight. Less fuel for a guy like him. Can't believe you ditched the business. He moans, turning it into his pity party. Grab your check for the last 2 weeks. Ain't much since Anna barely threw you any scraps. I tell him, watching him deflate. He was counting on those cars, but oh well, I don't feel a lick of sorry, just wish I could unload what I really think of that creep. Back in my office, I pull Anna aside. This stays between us, got it? She's solid. Always, Kurt, I won't leak a word you don't greenlight. I lay it all out. Here's the scoop, I've got 2 companies set up in Nevada. One's snagging the lot, the other's taking the business, and I've got every share in both. Down the line, I'm divorcing Jenna, but I'm locking her out of this place. I've already moved out, she's clueless so far, but I ain't heading back. She slept with George and Carrie? Not my kid, bet she's his. No clue if Jenna or George have figured it out, but they'll catch on soon. I'm not filing for divorce. I'll keep the house bills paid so she can't scream abandonment and grab everything. If she files, I've got this tangled up so she can't touch the business. Double sale, let em unravel that. The cash from the sale be dust by the time she drags it to court, and I'm scraping by on some consulting gigs and spare commissions. You're the captain now, Anna. I'll pop in if you need me, but I know you've got this. She's grinning at the promotion, but when I spill the George and Jenna dirt, her face hardens. She's a rock, and I respect the hell out of her. Before I split, I say, one last job, order a new sign and letterhead. We're calling it Helpless Car, it'll rub it in George and Jenna's faces that this ain't mine anymore. I spell it out careful so she gets it exact. She squints, thrown off, and I laugh. I'll tell you why I picked it someday. It's the whole damn tale in 2 words. She's scratching her head but rolls with it, she trusts me. I say my goodbyes to the crew, hop in my Audi, and peel out for Albuquerque. 2 hours in, Jenna's on the line, quicker than I thought. It's the old routine, I'd take off for a day or 2, she'd call, we'd yap, I'd slink back, shit would calm down for a sec, then explode again, wash, rinse, repeat. I figured I'd pick up Jenna's call, wanted to hear what she'd cook up this time. Hey, I said, voice bouncing through the car's speakers. Kurt, what's going on? She asked, all cautious-like. Not much, just cruising to Albuquerque. I shot back, flat as a tire. Why you headed there? She dug in. Gotta grab a car. I said, no juice in it. So what I heard's gotta be bunk. George must have rung you, or, checked in with your side piece about her man. She guessed, fishing hard? Dunno. I shrugged. What did you hear? She spilled. George called, said you dumped the business. I smirked. Why is he buzzing you? That threw her, she backpedaled. I mean, he's your best pal, right? Just wondering if I knew. Best pal, hilarious. I was the punchline, the clueless Polish sucker while my wife and him messed around behind me. Yeah, my family couldn't stand the shame of a used car salesman, so I sold it. No more stain on your rep. I said, dry as dust. Shouldn't we have talked this out first? She fretted, probably sweating our cash flow. My gig, my call, owned it before you came along, and I can ditch it whenever. Hope the new guy treats the crew right. Did you score a decent haul? She cried, eyeballing her comfy life. I didn't give a damn anymore, just craved a reset. I'll hunt for a job after I kick back a bit. I tossed out. What about the mortgage? She yelped, panic creeping in. Paid it off with the sale. House is yours, just handle utilities and taxes. Food? Gas? Insurance? She near screamed, losing it. Slipped my mind, think you could pick up more shifts? I nudged. When you coming home? Tell me straight. She demanded. Ain't coming back. I said, cool as ice. Remember what you spat when I walked out. Don't sweat it, I'll keep the lights on. You can't pull this, Kurt, come home. She begged, voice cracking. Nah, I'm good. I said, stone cold. Kurt, don't do this. She sobbed, I wasn't budging. Already did. What about my daughter? She threw out, tugging heartstrings. You mean Carrie? The kid who's mortified by her name and her dad, the ex-car salesman? She's 13, sure, but that don't soften the sting. Doesn't matter now, I'm gone for good, so no one's gotta blush over me. I snapped, then cut the line and killed the phone, leaving her to stew. She'd blow it up, I knew, and fume when I didn't bite. After cooling off, I tried soaking in the drive to Albuquerque. Bet she'd hit up George next, whining for intel and passing on my words. Rolled into town, flipped the phone back on, 5 voicemails, 3 from Jenna, 1 from George, 1 from Anna. I punched Anna's number first. Hey Anna, sorry, phone was off, dodging some clowns. I said. Yeah, your wife and George lit up my line, sniffing for you. I told them you don't own this joint no more, so your history. She filled me in. Perfect, they bug you too much, threaten the cops with a harassment rap. I grinned. Love that. She laughed, then got real. Kurt, might feel like you're solo, but you've got us, we're your crew, your family, always. Anna, you're a damn treasure, your man better know he hit the jackpot. I said. Oh, he does, tells me every day. She swore. Don't ever let that slip. I urged, and she promised she wouldn't. Hung up, mulled over ringing Jenna or that jackass. Nope, let him simmer. Stepped out of the Audi, hit the lot office, the owner's waiting. Got that Audi I mentioned, wanna talk trade? He pitched. We scoped it, inside, outside, under the hood. Could move this in a week, you sure about swapping? Feels like I'm winning here. He said. Not chasing profit, just want a sports car. You can owe me one. I shrugged. Half an hour later, I'm tearing down the road, top down, wind whipping, headed north to Santa Fe, sounded right. Next 2 weeks, I roamed northern New Mexico, Arizona, southern Utah, Colorado, stayed close if Anna needed a lifeline. Checked in a few times. Once it all settled, I drifted west. They kept calling, first pissy, then sorry, then sour. I'd listen, smirk, let it roll off. Cancelled credit card news? Laughed my ass off. George even chimed in, painting me the bad guy for ditching Jenna and Carrie, kept chuckling. Lawyer texted, Jenna's throwing legal threats if I don't crawl back. I called him. Hey, it's Kurt, she's yapping at you? Yeah, but you're still paying the house, so she's got no legs, I'll handle it. He said. Got something juicier. I grinned. Recorded me saying I'm out, her telling me to stay gone, pure gold. Send it over, if she stirs shit, I'll shove it at her lawyer, let him choke on it. He said. Thanks, catch you next week to see where it's at. I'm cruising the southwest, the Miata ain't plush, but it's a hell of a ride. Caught some stares, even a few flirty winks from bored middle-aged gals, not my game, though, still hitched, messed up or not, and I wasn't hunting that kind of trouble. I kept roaming, hit Reno, then Lake Tahoe, cruised the coast through Napa Valley, zigzagged down Highway 1 to Yosemite, San Diego, Death Valley, Vegas, and Phoenix, no hurry, just soaking it in. Chatted up strangers in parking lots. Some eyed me, a guy in his 30s cutting loose, with a mix of jealousy and awe. After about 3 months and 8,000 miles, I pointed the Miata back to Silver City. Rolled up to Helpless Auto, and man, the whole crew, plus a couple newbies, swarmed me like I'd just come home from war. They were all grins, pumped to see me back. Stepped into Anna's office, used to be mine, and she looked up, her face lighting up like a damn Christmas tree. She hopped out of her chair, rounded the desk, and wrapped me in a bear hug that said more than words. We shot the breeze for a bit, then I threw out. Think I can treat the gang to grub and drinks at Wrangler's? Can you shut the place down by 5? It's already 3. You bet I'll lock it up, and everyone'll be there, she promised. I waved bye to the team, hollered we'd meet in 2 hours, and left them buzzing like kids on a snow day. Next stop, my lawyer. While I'd been drifting, he texted that Jenna tried pulling an abandonment card to snatch my stuff. Lucky for me, he'd swatted it down like a fly. We chewed over what's next, plotting the end game. At 5 I rolled into Wrangler's with the crew. Dinner was a blast, catching up with everybody, laughing like old times. As the night wound down, folks trickled out, leaving just me and Anna. She locked eyes with me and said, Kurt, I know you feel like life's kicked you flat, like you're adrift, but you're wrong. You just trusted the ones you loved too hard. I met her stare, grinning. So you cracked it, huh? Took a while, she admitted. But that name, Helpless Car, stuck with me till it clicked. It's your whole damn story. Polish or not, those jabs never pinned you down. They're cheap shots at your roots, not who you are. Anna, you're why I came back, I said. Had to see how you'd handle my mess. I'm damn proud you didn't just fill my boots, you carved your own trail. Had a hell of a teacher. She shot back, grateful. We hugged, then she split to her husband. He looked genuinely happy, a solid guy, and I headed to my apartment, untouched for 3 months. Place smelled like a locker room. I flung open the windows, letting the cool night air sweep through. Grabbed a beer, plopped on the terrace by the pool. Folks were splashing around, a family giggling nearby, and my mind wandered to Jenna and me, back when we had big dreams tying the knot. Now? Dust. Clock said 8:30, and it hit me. I was done dodging. Stood up, jumped in the Miata, and gunned it to the house, still mine, bought before Jenna, my name solo on the deed. Pulled into the driveway, gut sinking. The yard was a jungle, weeds choking everything, porch light glowing like Jenna was in. Knocked on the door. Carrie cracked it open, eyes popping. Dad? Hey, Carrie, your mom around? I asked. She froze, then hollered. Mom! Jenna's shrill voice cut through from the kitchen. What's wrong? Carrie just gaped at me, yelling. Dad's here. Jenna stormed around the corner, spotted me, and screeched. Where've you been? Traveling, I said, steady as a rock. Then George stumbles out of the bedroom, in his damn underwear. Well, look at this. I smirked. The whole family's together, Mom, Dad, and kid. What the hell you yammering about? Jenna snapped, venom dripping. Guess George slid right into my spot. Makes sense, it's his anyway, I said coolly. She looked lost, Carrie's face twisted with teenage fury. Hold up, kid, you've got it wrong. I cut in, hating her know-it-all vibe. George never worked for me by choice, so I didn't fire him. Bills? Utilities and car insurance are handled. Jenna butted in. What about groceries, gas? You think your bookstore gig fell through while I was gone? It used to cover that. You waltzing back to take over? She challenged. Nah, I'll wait till you and your boyfriend find a new crash pad. I said they were shacked up in my house, and Carrie seemed A-okay with it. I ain't leaving my home. Jenna barked. Correction, it's my house, bought before you, my name on the deed. I fired back. You bailed, it's mine now. She insisted. Law don't bend that way. I pay the bills and taxes, so it's legally mine, even if I've been gone a stretch. Don't sweat it, I'll give you till next month's end to clear out, just take your daughter too. What do you mean your daughter? She's ours. Jenna yelped. Couldn't have said it better myself. I laughed dry. She blinked clueless, then turned to Carrie. Hey kid, I know you hate the Polish tag, so here's a kicker. I ain't your real dad, George is. Room went dead quiet. After a beat, Jenna whispered, What? Yeah, Jenna, your wedding day's slip-up sprouted a kid, but she ain't mine. I laid out, watching it sink in. Well, Carrie, here's some good news. You can ditch my name and grab your real dad's. Become Carrie or whatever. I said, half smirking. Wonder if your mom picked Carrie to tip her hat to her boyfriend. I mused out loud, watching Jenna and George swap a look. His face went white as a ghost. What about you, George? Ready to man up as a daddy? No? Too bad, it's time to own it. Bright side though, just 4 years till she's off to college. I tossed out, casual but sharp. They both stammered, almost in sync. I don't buy it. So I whipped out the DNA report and slapped it in their hands. Check it out yourselves. They grabbed it, skimmed it, and crumpled like wet paper. Carrie just stood there, glaring. Tell your mom and her lover boy she's getting divorce papers next week, eviction notice too. I told her, then turned and walked out, leaving Em to choke on it. All those months I was gone, I couldn't stop chewing on it. Did this mess with George run the whole damn marriage? Was I her pick, or just a chump in their game? Felt like a fool, helpless, blind, and naked to the world. George been snickering at me, tossing Polish jabs to my face while screwing me over behind my back. Back at the apartment, I drowned it all in beer, letting the buzz numb the sting. Next morning, I dragged myself to the lawyer to kick off the paperwork. Knew I'd have to sell the house and split the cash, but since I'd barely scraped by working, I was banking on dodging alimony and child support, especially with George squatting in my spot. Man, that betrayal, it gutted me. Trusting anybody again, guy or gal, felt like climbing a mountain with no rope. Maybe therapy's the move. Divorce kicked into gear, and I slid back into the dealership. Made it clear I wasn't the big dog anymore, just needed one sale a week to eat. Even if the court tried pinning child support on me, I drained my accounts to the bone, leaving pennies for basics. Jenna lawyered up. God knows how she paid for it. Maybe some bleeding heart took it pro bono. But they'd hit a wall digging through my books in the sale, nothing juicy to find. Word from the crew was George haunted the lot those first 2 weeks I was AWOL, begging Anna for gigs. She shut him down cold every time. He finally quit, and now he's kicking himself for not getting that ASC cert. Best he's got is slinging oil changes at Valvoline for $13 an hour. Hope Jenna steps up to full-time, or they're screwed. I hit up the realtor, gave Jenna the heads up. The house is going on the block, 50-50 split coming her way, but she's got a scram since the eviction's already in her lap. One night she shows up at my door. I cracked it open, wary. What do you want, Jenna? Can we talk? She asked, all soft. Not sure that's smart. We're in a legal slugfest. I grunted. Come on, Kurt, just us, no suits, just a real chat? She pushed. Fine. But we're hitting Denny's public spot. I said, thinking witnesses might keep her honest. I didn't trust her alone worth a damn. At Denny's, we swapped small talk till I cut through. Why, Jenna? She stalled, then sighed. Guess it's simple. I was into both of you, couldn't pick. So you were juggling us both? I pressed eyebrows up. She stared at the table. Yeah, but George told me to keep it from you, said it'd tank your friendship. Then why'd you say yes when I popped the question? I dug in. I loved you, and George too. She admitted. But I knew he'd be a lousy husband, so we cut it off when you proposed. I threw myself into us, the wedding. But on our wedding day you were with him? I leaned in. Tears welled up, and she cracked. Yeah, it was all messed up. What was it then? I kept at her. Didn't want to lose him. He didn't want to lose me. She confessed. Well, now you've got him, and your kid. Nice touch with the name, by the way. Didn't clock it till I was on the road. I said, dry as hell. I didn't know Carrie wasn't yours. I added, letting that hang. She looked me dead on. Kurt, I still love you. Good to hear, Jenna. I muttered, voice flat as the table. But I'm not sure you even get what love's supposed to be, I said, staring her down. I loved you more than anything, and you can't toss that back at me, can you? She bristled. I loved you too. But I cut her off. Nah, all I've got left is disgust, pure and simple. That hit her hard. Jenna got it, no more. Us. just a burned-out shell. Before she bolted, I had one last itch to scratch. Did you ever stop, with him? I asked. She froze, then caved. No, we never quit. Had some slow spells, but usually hooked up twice a month. I'd been fishing for a different answer, some shred of hope, but still, I tipped my hat. Thanks for not bullshitting me. One more thing. About a year back, you started treating me like dirt. What flipped? Her cheeks went crimson, then a flicker of mad sparked up. George, he started nagging for some wild threesome, you out of the picture. I might have bid if you were in on it, but we couldn't figure that mess out. He kept at it, and I started hating you for not bending, something I knew you'd never go for. Weird, right? I wanted both my guys together, and I blamed you for not playing along. She spilled, voice shaky. Did you do it? I pressed, eyes narrow. No, thought about it, but then you split, and it all went to hell, she said, deflated. Well, you're free now, chase whatever you want. Don't mean squat to me anymore. I shrugged, feeling the chat wind down. Paid the tab, and we trudged out to our cars, done. 4 months later, we're in front of a judge, signing off the divorce, George lurking there too, like a bad smell. Stepping out of the courthouse, Jenna threw out. How about a drink, old school style? I nodded. Sure, why not? The bad blood? It had fizzled out, mostly. Then it hit me, this was it, my last tie to them snipped clean. They can shack up now, stew in their own slop, perfect match, those two. Jenna's gonna have to get used to scraping by though, maybe that bitterness ain't fully drained out of me. Polish or not, I damn well deserve respect.